Do you struggle controlling your emotional outburst? Would you like a better grasp on how to properly moderate emotions like anger, anxiety, or fear? We've all been there, feeling like our emotions are running the show, leading to harm in relationships from overreactions, unnecessary suffering, or foregone opportunities that seem too daunting. But what if I told you that it doesn't have to be this way? That there are practical steps you can take to better control and regulate your emotions. In this enlightening exploration, we're going to delve into the world of emotional regulation. We'll unravel the intricacies of our emotional responses and provide you with 5 actionable steps to help you gain better control. From understanding your emotions to learning how to shift them, we'll cover it all. So, if you're ready to gain control over your emotions and improve your mental well-being, stick around. It's time to reclaim the reins of your emotional life. Before we dive into the steps, it's essential to understand what emotions are and how they affect us. Emotions are our mind's response to various situations, and they play a significant role in our lives. They can motivate us, drive our decisions, and even affect our health. But sometimes the intensity of these emotions can lead to overreactions, causing harm to our relationships, unnecessary suffering, and foregone opportunities that seem too daunting. Now, let's talk about emotion regulation. This concept is about controlling and managing our emotions, particularly when they become too intense or overwhelming. It's not about suppressing or ignoring our feelings, but about understanding and moderating them. There are 2 broad categories of emotion regulation. First is reappraisal, which involves changing how we think about a situation that prompted an emotion, thereby changing our emotional response. For instance, if you're feeling anxious about a presentation, you might reappraise the situation by focusing on the opportunity to share your knowledge, rather than the possibility of judgment. The second category is suppression, which involves consciously trying to reduce or eliminate an emotional response. While this may be useful in some situations, it's important to note that suppression has been linked to more negative outcomes, such as increased stress and poor interpersonal communication. Other strategies for emotion regulation include selecting or changing a situation to influence our emotional experience, shifting our attention away from the source of negative emotions, and trying to accept emotions as they come. These strategies can be especially useful in managing emotions like anger, anxiety, or fear. But remember, emotion regulation isn't about eliminating emotions. It's about understanding them, acknowledging their presence, and then choosing a response that serves us best. This process allows us to navigate through life with greater ease and resilience, improving our overall well-being. With this understanding, we can now explore the strategies for emotional regulation. The first step in regulating emotions is creating space. Now, when we say creating space, what we're really talking about is the ability to pause, to take a breath, and to slow down the moment between the trigger and our response. This is crucial because emotions don't operate on a schedule or a timer. They happen fast. You don't think to yourself, I am about to get angry. Instead, you suddenly find yourself with a clenched jaw, a rapid heartbeat, and a surge of fury. So how do we create this space? Well, it's about developing a conscious awareness of our emotional reactions. When a trigger event happens, instead of instantly reacting, we need to teach ourselves to pause. This pause doesn't have to be long, even a few seconds can make a significant difference. It's like hitting the slow motion button on a video. It gives us time to process, to understand what's happening, and most importantly, to choose our response rather than just react impulsively. By doing this, we're not suppressing or ignoring our emotions, but rather, we're giving ourselves the opportunity to respond in a more mindful and constructive way. It's about taking back the control from our emotions and placing it in our own hands. Remember, emotions happen fast, so give yourself the gift of a pause. Step 2 involves noticing what you feel. This may sound simple, but it's a crucial part of regulating emotions. And it's not just about identifying the emotion. It's about tuning into your body and observing the physical symptoms that accompany these feelings. Why is this important? Well, our bodies often know what we're feeling before our minds do. For instance, your stomach might clench when you're anxious, or your heart may race when you're excited. These physical responses are your body's way of expressing emotion. So how do you do this? Start by taking a moment to focus inward. Close your eyes if you need to and take note of what's happening in your body. Do you feel tension in your shoulders? Is there a knot in your stomach? Are your palms sweaty? These are all clues that can hint at what you're feeling. This practice of self-awareness can also help you manage the intensity of your emotions. When you're swept up in a strong feeling, it's easy to get caught in the whirlwind. But by stepping back and observing your physical reactions, you can create a bit of distance between you and your emotions. This can help take the edge off intense feelings, making them more manageable. By paying attention to your body, you can gain insight into your emotional state. In the next step, we'll discuss how to name these emotions, which is another key part of emotional regulation. Step 3 is all about naming your emotions. Now, this might seem like a simple task, but it's quite the opposite. You see, our emotions are complex and multifaceted, and they can often be difficult to pinpoint. But here's the thing. When we name our emotions, we're doing more than just acknowledging that they exist. We're taking ownership of them. We're telling ourselves, this is how I'm feeling, and it's okay. So how do you go about naming what you feel? It all starts with self-awareness. You need to tune into your physical and mental state and ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? This could be anger, sadness, joy, fear, or any other emotion. Remember, there's no right or wrong answer here. Your feelings are valid, and they're your own. Now, you might be wondering, why is it so important to name our emotions? Well, when we label our emotions, we're essentially putting them in their place. We're giving them a context and a framework that helps us understand them better. This process allows us to gain control over our emotional experiences and respond to them in a more constructive and beneficial way. Think of it as organizing a chaotic room. When everything is in disarray, it's hard to find what you need. But once you start sorting things out, labeling them and putting them in their respective places, it becomes easier to navigate. The same principle applies to our emotions. By naming them, we're making sense of our emotional chaos, making it easier for us to navigate through our feelings. But naming your emotions is more than just a mental exercise. It's a form of self-care. It's about giving yourself the permission to feel and express your emotions freely. It's about validating your experiences and telling yourself that it's okay to feel the way you do. It's about acknowledging your emotions without judgment or criticism. In conclusion, naming your emotions is a crucial step in emotion regulation. It allows you to understand your feelings better, respond to them effectively, and ultimately, live a more balanced and emotionally healthy life. Identifying your emotions is a crucial step towards managing them effectively. Moving on to step 4 and 5, they are about accepting and shifting your emotions. Acceptance is the key to emotional regulation. Often we try to fight off negative emotions or suppress them, but this only leads to more distress. Emotions, whether positive or negative, are a part of our human experience. They signal us about our needs, desires, and issues that need attention. Accepting your emotions doesn't mean you have to like them, but it means acknowledging their existence without judgment. This acceptance can reduce the intensity of the emotions and ease the discomfort they bring. Consider your emotions like waves in the ocean. They rise and they fall. If we try to stop the waves, we'll inevitably get swept away. But if we ride along with them, we can navigate through them smoothly. Moving on to the 5th step, it's about shifting your attention away from the source of negative emotions. This doesn't mean ignoring the problem or avoiding it, but rather, it's about not dwelling on it excessively. Shifting attention is about focusing on the aspects of your life that bring you joy and peace. It's about practicing gratitude for what you have, instead of ruminating on what you lack or what's not going right. Consider this. If you're stuck in traffic and getting increasingly frustrated, instead of focusing on the situation that you can't change, shift your attention to something else. Maybe you could listen to your favorite podcast or take deep breaths and practice mindfulness. This shift in attention can help you manage your emotions effectively, reducing the intensity of negative emotions and increasing your overall well-being. Remember, emotional regulation is not about eliminating all negative emotions. It's about understanding them, accepting them, and knowing how to manage them in a way that they don't overpower us. By accepting and shifting your emotions, you can gain control over them. As we wrap up, let's quickly revisit the key points. we've journeyed through the landscape of emotional regulation, understanding its importance and learning 5 vital steps to master it. Firstly, we talked about creating space. Remember, emotions can be fast and furious. Allowing ourselves a pause, a moment of breath, can help us respond rather than react. Then we delved into noticing what we feel, tuning into our physical reactions to understand our emotions better. The third step was naming what we feel. Identifying our emotions, giving them a name, can help us gain control over them. Next, we discussed accepting our emotions. Acceptance doesn't mean resignation, but acknowledging what we feel without judgment. Finally, we learned about shifting our emotions, changing our perspective to influence our emotional experience. Remember, emotional regulation is a skill, and with practice, you can master it. Thank you for joining us on this journey towards better emotional control.